Following the massive commercial triumph of The Dark Side of the Moon, and after long contemplating the idea of producing an LP using only household objects as instruments, a project that actually had 3 tracks already finished, titled Household Objects, Pink Floyd found themselves facing immense pressure. The record label was desperate for a new product, expecting a massive financial windfall regardless of quality, while the fans were spasmodically awaiting their next move. All this pressure created unbearable tensions within a lineup that, until The Dark Side of the Moon, had never experienced global superstardom and was struggling to manage the chaos. Never were Pink Floyd closer to breaking up. Yet, by focusing the concept of the album on the theme of absence and depersonalization, largely rooted in the personal story of Syd Barrett, his journey into nothingness that led him out of the band first and out of reality later, they found their way forward. During the recording sessions, which stretched from January to July 1975 at Abbey Road, Pink Floyd managed to overcome the sense of absence, the absence of Syd, of loved ones in general, and even of their own identity as a band. As Roger Waters famously said, we should have titled it Wish We Were He, which would later surface on Animals, to focus on the third composition, Shine on You Crazy Diamond, which became the structural axis of the record, introduced by the famous cover designed by Studio Hypnosis, which, in the band's intentions, was meant to be hidden by dark cellophane, only to be opened by the buyer. Though many shopkeepers tore it off, thinking it was a mistake, Shine on You Crazy Diamond proved impossible to fit on a single side of vinyl. Thus, it was divided into 2 blocks, bookending the album. Technically and emotionally, I consider this work a step above The Dark Side of the Moon in terms of pathos and depth. The tortured keyboard performances by Wright, the contribution of Mason, often uncredited, the agonizing refinement of Gilmour's guitar, and the profound emotional involvement of Waters make Wish You Were Here an album with few equals. It carries an inner intensity shaped by the ghost of Syd Barrett, who hovers over the entire compositional process, including the lyrics. The main suite, taken as a whole, is perhaps the best thing Pink Floyd ever produced after Dark Side. Moog, Mellotron, ARP, and Hammond synthesizers resonate with an ethereal quality never before heard in their discography, supported by recording quality that was superb for the time. The guitar weaves unusual tonal shifts, achieving a poignant integration with Syd's lived experience. There are rare, very rare gems that describing only diminishes, and Shine on You Crazy Diamond is one of them. For the record, the final part features a violin solo by Stéphane Grappelli. It cost about £300, but it is almost inaudible due to the effects that smother it. Mr. Grappelli is not even credited in the liner notes. The other tracks, while never explicitly naming Barrett, contain broad references to their old comrade. Welcome to the Machine describes the bitter relationship between a musician, guess who, and the record industry. You bought a guitar to punish your mother, and you didn't like school. It contains electronic solutions that, at the time, mirrored the work of Kraftwerk. There was even an animated film for this piece by Gerald Scarfe, who later worked on The Wall. Have a Cigar treats similar themes, but here the critique is sharper, aimed at an EMI executive who, back in 1967, while managing the band, famously asked the members, "Which one's Pink?" Both tracks hold the industry accountable for contributing to Syd's downfall. It is important to note that the vocals on Have a Cigar are performed by Roy Harper. He was working in the studio next door and was deemed better suited to the track's vocal requirements. The finale of the piece is magnificent. The sound suddenly bleeds into the right channel, decaying into a weak mono signal. Then, a man enters a room and begins fiddling with the dials of a battered radio. We hear a man and woman discussing something unintelligible. Then a station broadcasting Tchaikovsky's Fourth. And finally, he finds a riff. It's Wish You Were Here in mono. A guitar picks up the theme, almost listlessly. And between a cough and a sigh, we are transported back into the high-fidelity sound of the album. It is beautiful. As with every epical record, there are episodes linked to its creation that border on the mystical. While the band was preparing the final mix of Shine On, a man appeared. He was obese, hairless, eyebrows included, and completely dressed in white, clutching a plastic shopping bag. Nobody paid much attention, assuming he was an odd technician, except for Wright, who sat next to him. The stranger sat there for a while, then got up and walked away. It was only then that Wright asked Waters, who was mixing the track dedicated to him, if he had recognized him. It was Syd Barrett. Waters burst into tears. Syd had listened to the entire track without saying a word, without giving a hint that he understood it was for him. When they wanted to listen to it again, he became agitated and said, "What's the point? You've already heard it." That day happened to be Gilmore's wedding. Syd was taken to the bar, but he began staring at guests, laughing hysterically to himself, and after a while, no one saw him again. He vanished as he had arrived. Wish You Were Here didn't sell quite like The Dark Side of the Moon, but we at the Song Hunter love it even more. This episode, existing between dream and reality, fits perfectly into the album's haunting, oneiric dimension. It is perhaps a peak never again reached by Pink Floyd as a unified organism, making it, from every point of view, a milestone of rock and music in general. The Song Hunter final score, 99 out of 100.